All right, Jake, we are underground, and is that what I think it is?
Yeah, that's wood.
This is a house we're building with a wood foundation. We're fully underground where we are right here. There is no concrete whatsoever in this building.
Correct.
Have an open mind, guys. We got a really interesting build show for you. We're in Columbia, Missouri. We're talking about wood foundations. Let's get going. All right, guys. Jake Bruton, incredible builder. Have an open mind on this video. Don't comment till you get to the end. There is no concrete footings, no concrete walls. There's no concrete in this building whatsoever.
Correct.
All right, so set the scene for us, Jake. Walkout foundation, right?
Yep.
So we got some windows on this side of the building, but we're totally underground at the front here, right?
Yeah, grade is close to ceiling level back here. Yeah.
So we're blowing people's minds right now that you could build a foundation without concrete, but this is not a new thing, right?
This is not new. In fact, we drove by one this morning. We're in Columbia, Missouri. We drove by one this morning that I grew up in, that my dad built in the late 70s or mid 70s, that still is in great shape.
How about that?
And you're holding what the code book references for. This is a code approved in the IRC. I mean, it's completely fine.
That's
right?
wild. Permanent wood foundation design specs. So this is a trade association, American Wood Council, that's been around for a long time.
Yep.
And in fact, I think I heard you reference there was a local YouTube video that was made on a remodel of a 30-year-old wood foundation. And in that video, it looked like it was in pretty good shape after 30 years, right?
Yeah.
Wild. All right, so walk me through the details. What are we seeing here?
Yeah.
Help me kind of understand.
So we have a compacted aggregate base that the entire building sits on.
Mm-hmm.
We have what we refer to as a footing board then. We have, in this case, we have a treated 2x12,
Okay.
which you have, in the specifications, we get certain things lined out, like
right here.
that 2x12 has to carry that UC4B rating, which is the rating for below grade and earth contact or ground contact. Structural rated for salt and freshwater contact.
So in other words, it's a higher level of pressure treating than just a normal pressure treating deck.
It's not your box store common CCA or ACQ. You have to make sure you're getting the right thing. And then we have a vapor control layer, a moisture control layer. In this case, we're using Stego Home, which I think is a 15 mil.
Okay.
So we have that across the entire assembly. And then we have a treated 2x8 plate that again is that UC4B.
Yep.
And
I can actually see that if I
You
look
can.
down here, right?
Yep.
So that's a bottom plate that's a 2x8 sitting on a 2x12 that kind of is acting like a footer.
It is.
To spread the load a little bit.
Yep. And then we have 3/4 treated ply on the outside.
Okay, so that's 3/4 ply that's also treated to that UC4B.
Yep. And then 16 on center, these are 7 1/4 Roseburg LVLs. It could have been framed with a 2x8 probably. We had a little bit of concern because we have a fairly tall backfill on this backside that we just decided we wanted straight walls. We wanted something that we had no structural concerns whatsoever. Let's go to an LVL and let's just be done with it. It's a smaller building.
And you might have had to go to, let's say, 12-inch on centers had this been a standard 2x8.
Yeah.
Is this treated or not?
They're not treated, so this
Okay.
is considered inside the envelope,
Got
which is kind of funny in my brain when you look at the way the standard reads. This is not inside the envelope, but this is inside the envelope. And we wrestled with it in our office, but if you realize if this was going to be getting water, your insulation would get water.
Right.
Well, that would cause a problem.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
there's some gray area there with the way the AWC rates it, but our architect and our engineer are fine with it. They don't really care.
Got it.
So we have regular insulation inside the walls. In this case, we're going to have a timber HV because if we're going to go carbon neutral by killing concrete in the building, let's just go the whole 9 yards, as they would say.
And or no yards in this case, concrete. So then
I would
outside
think
of this 3/4 pressure treated plywood though, you've got a pretty bomber waterproofing system, right?
Yeah, so we have and you're gonna have to help me with all the naming of the products. We have a joint and seam detailing product from Polygaurd.
It's blue barrier, joint and seam.
Yep, so
that's
that's our
2300.
That's our bridging material to kind of make everything monolithic. And then we have their Stretch Flex, which is the roll-on.
Okay, so you've got a roll-on liquid first.
Yep.
And then you've got a peel
40
and
mil.
stick, 40 mil
Home stretch.
home stretch, which is peel and stick below grade waterproofing, basically.
Yeah, which is made for basically any below grade foundation.
Yeah.
It's one of those like, well, this is kind of the best we can buy that we would consider doing on a concrete foundation as well. And then we have their dimple mat as well. So that gives us a
Polyflow, I think it's called.
Yep. We would call that a rain screen below grade. So it's a pressure relief valve. It creates a drainage plane, so there's no water held in tension. So if anything does get to that last line of defense, it can drain free all the way down to our footing.
We're not building a submarine, in other words. We don't want that water challenging and backing up against the foundation. We want that water that may come up there to hit that open joint on the polyflow and just whoosh, run down to our drains to be able to drain out.
Yep, and then we've backfilled with gravel, which the gravel actually works just like the polyflow. Like it's just a space for water to mitigate. And then all of that winds up at a perforated drain tile, and that drain tile winds up down the hill at open air. So
I think you've got an extra ability to not have a problem by not worrying about a sump pump, not being truly below grade, because we've got this walkout foundation. So everything with gravity is going to drain out eventually, right? It's going to roll downhill.
And like we're doing that, as you would say, bomber approach on the outside, but really that's the same approach that we take with our concrete foundations. We have had some pushback, even from a local builder said something about like, well, why wouldn't you just do concrete? Like it's monolithic. And I said, well, I seem to remember you remodeling a house that had a stone foundation. Were you worried about the stone foundation leaking? That's a bunch of individual rocks. And he's like, no. And then he kind of just stood there and was like, yeah, well.
That makes sense.
It was like, there are a lot of different things that can work.
Yeah.
This is something that has been tested. Just because you haven't heard of it before, doesn't mean it doesn't work.
Yeah.
We're taking an approach that's very thoughtful, and we're making sure that it's going to work.
Now these walls, when they come down and you backfill, how do we not let the walls kick out? What's keeping those walls? We don't have a big footer, you know, a 24-inch deep footer down there that keeps those walls from kicking in.
Yeah.
What's happening here?
So the AWC guide actually shows a concrete slab in the inside. So you'd have concrete that has compressive strength. We're concrete free on the whole building. So what we have is we have a few inches, 6 or 8 inches of backfill inside of this. And then we have our slabless slab that you've seen with us before. We have 4 inches of 2 layers of GPS insulation.
Yeah, so this is Halo Exterra, and so this is a GPS graphite infused polystyrene.
It's coffee cup with graphite in it. It off gases less in the long run, so it has less thermal drift. It maintains its R value, and it has it's proved to be below grade.
Yeah.
And we have 2 layers of that. They're offset in different directions, so the seams don't line up. It makes it a little structurally more has better integrity.
Yeah.
And then for our actual floor structure, we have 2 layers of tongue and groove Roseburg subfloor that is glued and screwed 8 inches on center. You can see this immaculate 8-inch on center blue grid that our framers were very meticulous because they're worried about things working or having a problem. They've done this a couple times for us now, and they knocked it out of the park. And we have.
I'd have to think the floor system, as well as the gravel and the backfill, is providing as much or more structure than a concrete slab would have.
Yeah.
In the end.
And we're already backfilled, so like it's working.
That's wild. Yeah. How about that? This is really cool. Couple things I want to mention. What, like in your mind, what are the big reasons for doing this? I mean, I would have to think cost is a big reason for doing this.
Sure.
But that can't be the only reason.
So
right?
I would start by saying, like, we're referring to this as the discovery project. We're trying to learn.
Sure.
The clients were very open-minded, and that's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
Number one, cost. This is a small project. This is a 400 square foot basement with 400 square feet above. Cost-wise, this was cheaper than having a concrete company come in and form this space.
For sure.
It was easier to just have our framers. From a carbon standpoint, concrete is really bad for the environment.
Yeah.
Like all those trucks and the quarrying equipment and the manufacturing and getting it to the site, that's not the bad part of concrete. The manufacturing of Portland cement is the bad part.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's bad for the environment, and if we can reduce it, that's probably a good thing for the planet. So exploring options that are different is probably not a bad thing. Site access, if I had a backyard that I was trying to put an ADU in, and we had room to get a Bobcat back there, but not a pump truck and concrete trucks, or a truck that was going to crane in our forms, this would be a great way to be like, yeah, I can have guys pack 7 1/4 LVLs and 4x8 sheets of plywood back there, or drive back there with a Bobcat.
Yeah,
way easier than
I would think a remote job site, a mountain, a countryside. You could do this as a builder framer and not need a bunch of concrete trucks.
Well, there's the other one. How far away is a ready mix plant? And are you going to actually haul? I realize there are trucks where they have a pump truck and a ready mix plant on one truck, but there's a cost associated with that. And when we go back to cost, a delivery truck with a forklift on the back of it is less money. Like, there are other ways to do it, and we're just trying to learn and expand our knowledge and see if there's something to discover, I guess.
Fascinating. Absolutely blew my mind. There's some great details here. And I gotta say, I was a little skeptical. Comment below, now that you've watched it, have you changed your mind since the beginning of the video? I know I have, now that I've been here. And the fact that this is a walkout site, this is not a primary residence, this is in effect permitted as a shed or an ADU. Total sense, no brainer. And I initially thought it was simply cost, which would be the reason, but thinking about site access, availability, there's lots of reasons to potentially do this. Jake's made a bunch of videos here over on thebuildshow.com. We'll link to all those as well as anything that we reference with guidelines below. And Jake and I are about to make another video for his channel that will go into even more depth. So go check out Jake's videos on thebuildshow.com and go follow him on Instagram, jake.bruton. He's doing amazing work both in Columbia, Missouri and in Kansas City, Missouri. He's really an incredible second generation builder. His company's been around 41 years. And this guy, even though he's a young 25 years old, just kidding, has 2 lifetimes worth of construction because of his parents running the business so many years and then him taking over for all these years.
Thanks,
really appreciate you, brother. Guys, if you're not currently a subscriber, hit that subscribe button below. We've got new content every Tuesday and every Friday. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on The Build Show.